Hey everyone, this is David Pike, the MotorCity mechanic. Now in today's video, we're going to be talking about something that I get asked about a lot. And that is, can you swap a late model oil filter housing to an early model Chrysler 3.6 liter Pentastar engine? We're going to be talking about that specifically, whether or not it's even physically possible, and also if it is, what are the pros and cons of making a swap like that? So make sure to check it out. Now I could just start the video off by telling you yes you can or no you can't, but I don't think you're going to learn anything. And to be honest, we need to kind of take into consideration the reason why we'd even make the swap to begin with. So we're going to be talking about the difference between the oil filters, everything that happens up under the cap that's different, and physically the difference between the assemblies, if there's anything that would actually prevent it from being installed. And there's another factor that might make this something that we might consider if it happened to us. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Now in this video, you're going to hear me say the words 3.6 liter over and over and over. Now one thing I want to add to that is, this engine has a sister engine, and it's called the 3.2 liter. Everything's identical. The only difference is displacement. So anything that I say that's related to a 3.6 liter is going to apply to a 3.2 liter. So keep that in mind. Now for those of you that aren't familiar with either one of the engines, what we're going to be talking about today is located right here, right up under this oil filter cap. Matter of fact, the cap is part of the assembly. Now in order to get to that oil filter housing slash cooler, we've got to remove the upper intake as well as the lower intake. Now if all those items are removed, we've now got access to the oil filter slash cooler assembly. It's sandwiched between both cylinder heads and bolts directly to the top of the block with 5 fasteners. We've got 2 connectors and 1 coolant hose we've got to take off in order to remove it. And this is what it looks like off the engine. If we take that oil filter cap off, we'll see that we've got a paper cartridge. No more spin-off metal filter that we're used to. And inside of here, we've got this plastic tower or cage. And on top of that, we've got a bypass valve. 2 common issues we have with this are that tower right here can come loose from its bottom mount. It's pressed together at the factory, and when it comes loose, you're not reinstalling it. The other thing is that bypass valve right here. It will break over time. Give it some heat, some years, some miles. It's just a matter of time. You'll take the oil filter out and you hear a pop sound, and this will go shooting across the shop or garage or wherever you're working. That's the other design flaw. Right here we've got the cooler portion, and I mentioned 2 connectors earlier. This is the oil temp and this is the oil pressure, and this is that pipe or the coolant line that I mentioned. Everything else runs through and comes out the bottom and into the block with a series of O-rings along the bottom edge. Now remember, this is 2011 to 2013. That's Gen 1 3.6 liter oil filter housing. Now for 2014 they made some changes. The engine didn't change much, but the oil filter housing and cooler did. Obviously it looks very similar to the previous version. I'll put them side by side in a minute. We'll point out some slight differences. Still got the sensors on the back, coolant line. Still got O-rings on the bottom, different color. Main difference is under the oil filter cap. If we remove it, you can see that we've got a different style oil filter. The other biggest difference is we have no tower or cage or bypass valve. All that has been eliminated. Now with both of the oil filters side by side, you can see some notable differences. One right here in my left hand is 2011 to 2013. One in my right hand is 2014 and newer. You can see that they've got an additional plastic piece on the end here that's not on the older version. Also the caps. Big difference in overall length. On the end, the hex is solid on 11 and 13. 14 and above, it's got little cutouts. These oil filters are not interchangeable. As far as snapping into the caps, they will not lock in. So you don't have to worry about that. And not only is there a difference between the oil filter and the caps, but the body of the oil cooler or the shape of it is different. This is the 2011 to 2013. You can see the cooler right here is just straight on both sides. So it fits down in that tight space between the 2 cylinder heads. Now on the later model, we've got a big difference. It's no longer completely flat on the outside. We've got these 2 angled areas here, and we've got one on the other side. So that might concern people on whether or not it's going to fit in that tight space. But let me show you that that's not going to be an issue. Now when we go to install that 2014 and newer housing, you'll see that those areas on the side of that oil cooler that I pointed out actually clear the ports on the intake. They're actually positioned in such a way that they don't interfere when installing it. So that's not going to be an issue. Now not only is there a difference in the shape of the oil cooler assembly, there's a difference in height. On the 2014 and newer, you're looking at about another 1/8 of an inch taller than the previous version from 2011 to 2013. Now for some people, they might think that might be a clearance issue between the upper intake that goes directly over it. But luckily there's enough space that it actually clears. So installing the upper intake won't be an issue. So up to this point, we've talked about all the differences between the two oil filter housings. We touched on the difference in the shape of the oil cooler, the difference in the height. We also showed everything that was different under the cap from the old version to the new version and the differences between the oil filters. Now the biggest question is, are they interchangeable? Is there any difference as far as bolting it up? Let's just see. Can I remove my old assembly and install the new assembly? Well, the answer is yes. That means that these bolts will line up with the holes in the block. That means that these seals and O-rings will line up with the holes on the block. So yes, you can physically bolt a 2014 and newer oil filter housing to a 2011-2013 block. The differences are slight. The differences aren't enough to actually cause any issues. Now the other reason why people actually swap out this assembly has nothing to do with eliminating that bypass valve or that tower that might eventually break. Nope, it's got to do with this right here. Money. Money can make us do a lot of different things, right? In this case, it can help us save money. The older oil filter housing will cost around $350. You can probably find it cheaper at different places, but when I checked with my parts department, it was $350. 2014 and up, if we make the swap, the difference is it costs $260. That's a $90 difference between the two oil filter housings. So that's a big reason why a lot of people will swap over. You're going to get the benefit of eliminating some items that might fail, and on the other side is you're going to save some money. That money could go towards the labor of having it replaced at a shop, or it could just go right back in your pocket if you're doing the repair yourself. So we've talked about all the positives and all the benefits that we're gaining by making the swap. But there is one downside to this that I can come up with. Now, me and you know that you made this swap, right? We know that you need a 2014 oil filter from this point forward, even though this may be a 2011 vehicle. The problem that comes up is if you or somebody else takes your vehicle in to be serviced. Now the mechanic, he or she, they don't know that you made the swap. They only know that the year of the vehicle is 2011. I showed you that you cannot really install the wrong oil filter into that cap and reinstall it. But if there's a will and there's a way, there's chances that somebody's going to break something trying to. Because that's all they know is what filter the vehicle needs. They don't know you made a change. So if you're going to go that route, you need to make sure when you drop the vehicle off that you mention that to them. I need an oil filter for a 2014. I changed my housing or assembly out. So that way there is no unforeseen incidences, right? They don't know any better. You're the one that knows the difference. Make sure you let other people know. Now in a perfect world, we would never have any issues with that oil filter housing. But heaven forbid something happens, right? Now you've got those two options. You can go back to the original style. Then there's no confusion whatsoever. They'll have the right oil filter every time they do the oil change. Or you can go to the late model, 2014 and above. That way you're going to be saving some money on the part. The other thing is you don't have to worry about that bypass valve or that tower coming loose. So you certainly have options and you've got something to think about. Now if you like this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up on YouTube. Don't forget you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you got any comments about anything you saw in today's video, or anything Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram related, you can leave something in the comments below, or you can email me at david@motorcitymechanic.com. Also, if you'd like to shop on Amazon, please scroll down into the description below this video, and there's a link. Click on that link. Make that your Amazon homepage. And every time you buy something from Amazon, you'll be supporting this channel. And if this is the first time you've ever seen one of my videos, please hit the subscribe button. That's another way to help support and help this channel grow. Once again, everybody, thanks for watching.